Owners of businesses volunteer their time on that board of directors, and in doing so, they often support the organization financially, either real dollars or in kind or both. The entrepreneur that sits on the board is going to learn from kind of the bureaucratic nature of the nonprofit industrial complex, as it were.
Hey, this is John Martinka with Nick Anderson for our monthly podcast discussion. Today, rather than just rambling unscripted like we usually do, we are going to talk about how giving back to the community can help your business and lessons you can learn for your business via giving back. So, hey, Nick, good to talk.
Absolutely. Hey, John, good to see you.
Yeah,
Uh, just love this article you put together. Happy we're talking about it.
yeah. So, I've found that if you look at a lot of companies out there and a lot of people will say, oh, these big companies, they don't do anything. They should pay more, they should give more. And amazingly, they do give a lot. I think for most companies, even Amazon is flipped around, and I know that from what they do with my Rotary Club, that they're very generous to their communities. And
Yeah, I was at a Seattle Chamber of Commerce. I think it was the annual luncheon, and Brad Smith was speaking on behalf of Microsoft. And he went through their corporate philanthropy, the millions, if it wasn't tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't remember the actual number, and taxes paid, and not just federal taxes, but state and local taxes and sales taxes and so forth, and the contributions that large enterprise companies make into the community is really significant. There's a sidebar conversation around what governments, how they treat companies and the impacts on their states. But what I really like about your perspective in your article is it was written through the lens of the call it the small business owner. And I think in America, small businesses, they mean a one or two, mom and pop shop up to a 500. you know, I don't know what that cut line is off the top of my head, but hundreds of employees, millions of dollars in revenue, but kind of closely held family
yeah,
businesses. And, you know, I've often been cynical of, let's say, Nike. Nike, who would make a big donation into a sports nonprofit. And I would joke that they'd write $100,000 check and spend $10 million dollars advertising the $100,000 check that they donated. So I don't want to take away from the contributions that large enterprise make in the community, but focusing on that owner operator, that small business entrepreneur, the family business that does so much in their community through Rotaries, through the chambers of commerce, other organizations like that, and they don't look for the accolade. They don't look for the publicity, but they do so, really from a place of altruism. I think that's just so important in our community, our economy.
yeah, and one of the things that small businesses can't do that large companies like a Microsoft and others do is they will match contributions that their employees make. They will match hours put in on volunteer projects. So, if you have a service day, and whether it's, I know Windermere Real Estate does one, and I don't know what they do financially, but they say all our people are going to go out to work in the community on this certain day. Or, Mike, I've seen people do a project with an organization. They submit the hours they put in, and Microsoft has an hourly rate that they match.
Yeah.
And small businesses necessarily can't do that. So it's on the owner. What are their choices? And then you have to look at it and flip it around. Is purpose of my article was uh, what can you learn from what you do when you're giving back? Because you don't,
Yeah.
like you said, if someone donates $100,000 but spends 10 million to publicize it, what's the meaning there? Versus we see a problem in our community and we're going to help them solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just so true. And particularly in that, here again, I'm a big fan of the owner operator, small business, independent entrepreneur. Um, Making a difference in the community. Let's say it is building a house for Habitat for Humanity, or running a collection effort for, collecting food for a local food shelter, collecting coats in the winter. Uh, there's those projects, just like any other initiative in a business, they they do better when there's a strategy, when there's a direction, when there's clear lines of reporting and accountability if you want to make a big impact. I know the work that you do in Antigua, you are building buildings and you are bringing people together uh, from a variety of different groups and government, non-government. You're raising money, you're organizing people. I mean, these are just as complex as any, go-to-market kind of consideration for a manufacturer bringing a new product online.
Yeah. Well, and if we go back to the article I wrote, and I don't want it to come across as bragging, but we've done really good, but we've also learned a lot of lessons. And we've learned
Hmm.
a lot of lessons that I think apply to businesses, such as you better know what problem you're solving before you have a
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
I got a call
Yeah.
from someone I know very well the other day, and he said, we're thinking, my wife and I are thinking of doing starting a little side business and make a little money, be creative and that. And the first thing I said to him was, okay, what are you going to solve? What's the problem?
Yep.
And and then you have to go through that exercise because in business, what's the old line was you can build a better mousetrap, but if nobody knows it's the better mousetrap, and that's where marketing comes in. But what's your problem?
Hmm.
Well, you got mice. Okay. How do you catch the mice?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
how do you let people know they can catch the mice?
I love the question you just asked. What is the problem we're solving?
Yeah.
Like, if I had a buck for every time I said that question, I might have like 20 bucks by now, which is a lot of times to ask that question. We get into a conversation. I might get into the conversation with my team, or maybe it's someone in my community, and we're talking about some problem, some issue. We talk about the symptoms of something. Well, somebody ought to do something about that, right? Maybe maybe that business owner says, "Yeah, I want to do something, but I want to put some resources towards that." Well, then you got to ask the question, what is the problem we're solving? Um, I have an academic background in nonprofit. I have a master's degree in nonprofit leadership, and I have a CV that includes several board chair appointments in nonprofits, and spent a lot of time in the social sector. Um, and as much as I love the social sector, there are so many opportunities to ask that question over and over again. Um, and just one example, right? We take a look at homelessness. And the symptom might be as we drive down the street, as we walk down the street, we see that people are living on the street. And somebody says, somebody ought to do something about that. And so the person that says, I want to do something about that, we have to ask the question, well, what is the problem that you're solving? It's the easiest answer to solving homelessness is build homes, right? But is that the solution to the problem?
That's the on the surface answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then you have to go, what is the problem with the people who are on the streets?
Yeah.
And there's something behind that, whether it's mental illness or drugs, alcohol, or just they're a free spirit, like the hobos of, you see these cartoons about hobos 100 years ago riding trains because they just didn't want to be tied down.
So There's something underneath that symptom.
Yeah.
And often there's something underneath what's underneath. So then it becomes very complex. And so if we take that over here to business, Jeff Bezos uh, started out wanting to sell books online, and now his within his company they're solving all kinds of problems, right? The last mile problem. How do we get products to the front door of our customers in a way that is efficient and reliable and consistent? Started out solving one problem, and that uncovered another and uncovered another, and so these efforts to give back, they can be altruistic, they can be feel good. Um, if it wasn't for my employers over the years, I wouldn't have had the experience necessarily of working in a food bank or cleaning up a park or building or painting a house. Um, so it creates real opportunities, but the lessons that are in there, super important. Not to mention, solving the problems, but the financial elements. Right? You want to. So let's just say at the surface level, you want to solve the homelessness problem. We'll build a house for everybody that doesn't have one. Okay, how are you going to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So, you want to have a business. You want to do the thing that you've loved all your life. You want to sell those baskets that you learned how to weave underwater in community college. Well, that takes money, and whether it's fundraising or product sales, these things kind of look the same. I know you've had to raise money for your projects in Antigua. Like, how do you go about doing that? Convincing investors to give
Missing
you
invest.
money.
Yeah. We're lucky. We have a foundation that loves what we do, keeps loving what we do. So they're like reinvesting.
Hmm.
But I really liked your point about the symptom of the symptoms,
Yeah.
etc. And if we tie it to a business, and we're tied to lower middle market business, the kind you and I might work with, and someone in the company says, we really do a poor job of staying in touch with our customers. Okay, we need a CRM. Okay, let's put in this CRM.
Yeah.
We looked at 10 of them. This is the one we want to
Yeah.
use.
That's going to
And
solve a
then a
problem.
year later, we're doing such a good job of keeping in touch with our customers. Orders are going up and we're falling behind on production. Well, let's get an ERP system. Okay, we'll put in the ERP system, and assuming they put it in and it actually works, uh,
Yeah.
they've got an ERP system. And then they go, well, QuickBooks is not sophisticated enough. We need a better accounting system. And they get an accounting system. And I'm going to give you an example from a professional service firm where I know one of the founders. They've done the software thing. They've got a billing software that they say is great. Their people love it. It's so easy to put in their time they served with clients, etc. It doesn't communicate with their accounting system for the rest of the game. So
Yeah.
you've got the three legs. You've got accounting, ERP, CRM. You've solved three problems, but you've created a bigger one because
Yep.
you address symptoms one at a time.
The thing that I just love and admire about entrepreneurs is they'll just go attack a thing and get it done. They'll just go at it and get it done. The thing that drives me nuts about large, organizations is kind of bureaucratic decision making. The thing is that those two are there must be a balance in there. So to just go solve the customer relationship problem with a CRM and then go solve the order fulfillment with an ERP, and as you just said, that lacks the strategy. That lacks the kind of let's think 5 years down the road. Where do we want to be? What are the things that are going to be necessary for us to get there? What are the risks? What are that strategic planning? And
There's
and I
no plan, is what you're saying.
and the beautiful thing is that entrepreneurs will just go get something done without a plan, and they actually get it done. The bureaucrats will talk all day about the plan and they won't get anything done. Now, the entrepreneurs will get, 3 miles down the road and think, oh shoot, would have been better if we had a plan, right? So if we can bring these two things together, then we're then we're cooking with gas. And
Yeah.
I just, I had this just today, and it's not just today, but like literally today, I had this conversation with one of our leaders. We we at One Accord cannot engage in serving a client if we don't start with strategy, because it always ends up with a, oh my gosh, we should have started there, right? And our clients, our entrepreneurs, they just tell us, I don't have time for that. I just want to go get the thing. Okay. So back to this analogy of solving the homelessness problem, there are many people in the world, home builders, contractors, who are just, they would be ready to go build houses, out in Timbuktu. Like, we'll just build a bunch of houses on acreage out there. It'll be cheap. It'll be easy. We can stand them up real quick. We'll do it in Montana. They don't even need permits. We'll go build houses for everybody. Well, how are you going to get the people there? How are you going to feed them? What are they going to do for work? How are you going to provide the services they need, right? That one problem, like you say, opens up others. And then, how are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Problem plan and then, the financial.
mm-hmm. Yep.
Because whether it's back to our analogies of ERP and CRM, those things don't just drop from the sky for you. Yeah, there's free versions of stuff, but if you got a company like the one example I laid out, you're not using a free version. You can't. It's
Yep.
oh,
This is where
where do you
I
get the money
love
for it?
I love community nonprofits where the board of directors is seated, better than 50%, maybe 50% by local business owners. So you've got a nonprofit organization, non-governmental organization that exists to solve a problem in the community. Owners of businesses volunteer their time on that board of directors, and in doing so, they often support the organization financially, either
Right.
real dollars or in kind or both. Great way to give back. But then their business acumen and their leadership helps shape the direction of that nonprofit. And I would say oftentimes the entrepreneur that sits on the board is going to learn from, as I said, kind of the bureaucratic nature of the, nonprofit industrial complex, as it were. Nonprofits are really, really good at strategic planning. Nonprofits are really, really good at replacing founders with interim executive directors before hiring permanent CEOs. I'd say that nonprofits, from an organizational governance lens, are leagues ahead of small family-owned businesses, owner-operated businesses in terms of that governance. So here again, when the entrepreneur wants to give back and does so as a board member of a community-based nonprofit, there are a lot of lessons that entrepreneur is going to learn through that experience. And, we can do hands-on work, we can do the intellectual work, and there's myriad benefits to both.
So where do you think nonprofits fail if they're so good at strategic stuff and governance, etc.?
Ha, great question.
I have my answer, so see what yours
Yeah.
is.
Uh,
I don't see mean fail. I mean
I
not
understand.
fire on all cylinders.
Yeah. Yeah. Execution of the plan
Implementation is my
that's it.
word.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, an excellent strategic plan with poor execution as compared to a mediocre plan with excellent execution, I think we know who's going to win. I'm advocating for the fact that nonprofit organizations regularly budget on about a 3-year cycle to hire an external facilitator to run the board through a 3-year or 5-year strategic plan, get clear and aligned on goals and objectives, KPIs. The nonprofit boards meet generally monthly. There's good financial reporting, there's good visibility. Um, because the nonprofits are governed by volunteer board members, the level of engagement that those volunteers actually put in is less than what an employer will get out of an employee who's paid. So I think that's a part of the execution problem. And then the the folks that are the folks that want to work in the nonprofit sector do so for reasons often other than financial or economic incentives,
The
right?
paycheck, the
Yeah,
amount of the paycheck.
right. And so, you've just got it's just a different vibe in the sector. Everybody wants to do well. And I would say at the individual level, the folks that I know all do well, but the incentives really matter. And it is just unfortunate that the world perceives paying private sector salaries to nonprofit executives is not a good thing. I
No, it should
completely
be a
disagree
great
with
thing they
that.
should be doing because you want the best and brightest.
Yeah, I mean, I would have zero qualms about someone running a homelessness initiative as a CEO, making millions of dollars like any private sector CEO, so long as they're effective.
Yeah. Well, you bring up something very interesting, Nick, and we only have a few minutes left here, but you talk about these people and they're in a mission and they're working together. And you look almost every other podcast discussion we have had over the last year plus has touched at least peripheral on one item with small businesses, red flag, owner dependency.
Yep.
And when you have that nonprofit, it's a team game. You have a team and they're all
Yeah.
pulling in the same direction. And in the business, the too many owners, yeah, but I want to be the one leading the pull.
Mission alignment in nonprofits comes a lot easier than it does in the private sector. So here again, I'll stick with homelessness, right? Um, there are people who are passionate, who will commit their lives to ending homelessness. Now let's take, our professional services business, your business, my business. There's not a single person I know that would commit their life to being an excellent business consultant. What's more true is people will elect to be in this business, our business, as a career, to do work that they enjoy, for sure, with people that they enjoy doing it with, for sure, for a really nice paycheck. Nobody's going to come work for us for a below market paycheck and work overtime because they just love the business. It just ain't going to happen. So
No.
mission alignment. So if we could take that lesson and somehow find it in our private sector companies, in our organizations. How do we attract only those people who are 100% aligned with the mission of our company? Well, number one, you have to be clear about what that mission is. So take me back to this whole strategic planning thing.
Yeah.
I would venture a guess that fewer than 85% of the companies that operate in the US, all businesses in the US, have an actual mission statement that means something to their organization.
You think it's that high or
No, I think
that low? You sure it's not 95 that don't understand what the mission employees don't understand the mission
no, I
statement?
think
No, I
I
don't.
think 15, yeah, I think 15%, somewhere
Okay.
in that like one out of six have a stated mission statement, have a
That,
written mission statement, have some kind, but then, to what degree are all of the people in the organization aligned with that? And I think that's where we see some tail off.
that's where I was getting at. How
Yeah.
many have a mission statement that the employees know and understand?
Yeah. I'm afraid that number's small.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a real opportunity. There's a lesson learned from this notion of giving back in the community. What can we learn from other organizations? I mean, volunteer organizations. I think about youth sports camps where they recruit hundreds of unpaid volunteers over the summer to help kids play sports.
Yeah.
Could you imagine running a business where you could recruit hundreds of unpaid people to help you deliver for your clients? That'd be a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Hey, look, I know we got to finish up here,
Yeah,
but I want to finish with one topic that that is very prevalent in the philanthropic world, the nonprofits, or when any of us, you and me, give back, and that's relationships. You
yeah.
have to have a relationship to the cause, the people in the cause, the people benefiting from the cause. And that's just like business.
So
Nobody
true.
does business with somebody they don't like.
Yeah. Know, like, and trust, building relationships. And I think, for you, the work that you're doing in Antigua, and you get people to go with you. And then you're shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow when you're digging trenches and hammering nails and you're sweating together and you built the thing together. Um, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, we're not digging trenches, but we do have people climbing ladders to run wires for Wi-Fi networks in schools. So,
Awesome.
hey, Nick, great. I know we're out of time today. Uh, Good discussion. Nick Anderson, One Accord, John Martinka, Nokomis Advisory Services, our regular monthly podcast. Uh, we always seem to have some interesting discussions, and we'll continue this next month.